Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she of the weeping at the border over child separations, but only when Trump is president. She is also saying the quiet part out loud, which is they do want the open borders. They want those open borders and they want them bad.
Virtually every single member of this committee is here today as a result of and thanks to more open U.S. immigration policies. And the idea of slamming the door when we desperately need these migrants, when we desperately need it, and what we need is an orderly process. It's not that we don't need or want folks to come. It's that we actually have to make it easier for these individuals to participate in our economy, get a job, support themselves, and live the American dream. And what this conversation is about defending the American dream.
The American dream, presumably, is that there be no border whatsoever. Now, again, countries can have open immigration policies so long as their economies are not giant welfare economies, so long as there is the courage of their conviction with regard to assimilation into your culture. You can have open borders under those circumstances. That was, in fact, a policy of the United States in the late 19th century. That sort of thing was part of American policy, and it didn't destroy the country. But once you had a welfare state, it changes all the math pretty dramatically. And not only that, once you add on to that a multicultural notion that people don't have to learn English, but they don't actually have to learn American customs and ways of life, then of course the social fabric of the country is going to fray. But AOC doesn't care about any of that. She's perfectly happy to see the social fabric of the country fray because she agrees with the basic premises of many of the people at the WF that top-down administrative control over nearly every area of life is better for you, and that borders are parochial, borders are wrong. Of course, it's the World Economic Forum, not the National Economic Forum. Are you struggling with back taxes or have unfiled returns this year? The IRS is escalating collections by adding 20,000 new agents. In these challenging times, your best defense is to use Tax Network USA. With over 14 years of experience, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in back taxes. They specialize in negotiating with the IRS. They aim to reduce your debt significantly. Tax Network USA doesn't just negotiate, they protect your assets from IRS seizures and they manage your yearly returns for ongoing compliance. Importantly, they're all licensed to help with state tax. Importantly, they are licensed to help with all state tax issues regardless of where you live in the United States. Seize control of your financial future now. Don't let those tax issues destroy you. Contact Tax Network USA for immediate relief and expert guidance. Call 1-800-245-6000 or visit tnusa.com/Shapiro. Turn to Tax Network USA. Find your path to financial peace of mind. That's tnusa.com/Shapiro. Don't get behind with the tax man. Instead, head on over to tnusa.com/Shapiro. So apparently no compromise is coming on immigration. That's because the White House refuses to just pass H.R. 2. H.R. 2 is a strong on the border security bill from the House Republicans. Instead, they're proposing a series of changes that would remain extremely soft on illegal immigration. Speaker Mike Johnson, to his credit, is refusing to go ahead with any sort of compromised border bill along the lines that Democrats are looking for, according to the New York Times. Speaker Mike Johnson on Wednesday dug in against President Biden's efforts to revive stalled legislation to send aid to Ukraine, saying the Republican-led House would not entertain it unless Democrats agreed to a far more severe crackdown at the U.S.-Mexico border than they have been willing to consider. He said, "I told the president what I've been saying for many months. It's that we must have change at the border, substantive policy change. We must insist that the border be the top priority." Well, Joe Biden had summoned the lawmakers in both parties to lecture them about Ukraine, about the importance of repelling Russia's invasion, but he refused to actually commit to any serious changes at the border. Meanwhile, some of the Senate Republicans are ready to cut any sort of deal, apparently. Senate Republicans said they are hopeful. Senator Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, who's fairly soft on immigration, said the Senate could vote as soon as next week on a national security spending bill combining border measures with military assistance for Ukraine and Israel as well. It seems to me that what is being proposed in the Senate is far too weak for Republicans in the House to sign on to. So leading Senate Republicans are saying this is the best chance the GOP has had in years to secure serious border policy concessions from Democrats. But I really doubt that. I think that Joe Biden is willing to cave more than he has thus far. So what exactly is being proposed at this point? Well, it's something called the Dignity Act. So the so-called Dignity Act was originally brought up in 2023 by Representative Maria Alvarez Salazar of Florida, who I know, she's a delightful person, but she's wrong on this bill, and other co-sponsors, including people like Veronica Escobar, Democrat of Texas. And again, this is a fairly weak immigration bill. It includes $25 billion for more border security like barriers and technology. And it does hire and train more personnel. But with regard to asylum reform, it essentially says that there would be humanitarian campuses managed by CBP along the southern border where migrants would be held. Asylum officers would then conduct asylum interviews and make final determinations on the campuses. Migrants would have access to medical staff, licensed social workers, mental health professionals, child advocates, private organizations that provide humanitarian assistance and legal counsel. Under that bill, within the first 15 days, the staff would provide an initial screening, including criminal background checks, biometric data, verify identification, conduct medical assessments, and migrants unable to establish a credible fear during an initial screening would be subjected to expedited removal from the United States. Then, presumably, asylum seekers would theoretically be held for another 45 days, although it's unclear to me whether they would then be released into the United States, because otherwise things are just going to continue to swell at the border. Obviously, one of the big problems here is how do you establish credible fear? What exactly does credible fear look like from a migration official with the staff of these humanitarian campuses? According to the bill, within 45 days of passing the initial credible fear interview, a trained U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services asylum officer would review the individual's asylum claim and make a final determination. Asylum officers must deny, approve, or refer complex or uncertain cases to an immigration judge. So basically, you would end up with the same sort of backlog that you currently have. For those who are referred to an immigration judge, the bill would then create a system by which asylum seekers would receive a notice to appear and then be released from the humanitarian campus. So this would continue to maintain catch and release. It would just do so in a more delayed fashion than is currently being applied. This is the reason why Republicans in the House are not willing to go forward with this. It also creates worker status for illegal immigrants who are already here in the country. It is a very, very soft bill, which is precisely, of course, what Republicans are saying. It keeps the border open. So the question is, why don't Democrats just cave? Seriously, why don't they just cave? Why don't they give Republicans more of what they want, get some sort of actual border compromise done in the bill? They can go back to their base and say, listen, we needed the Ukraine funding. We needed it. And so we had to cave. And then they could go to moderates and say, we actually did something to stop the flow at the border. Instead, they keep doubling down on open borders rhetoric. And then they're blaming Republicans for, quote unquote, not wanting to fix immigration. That dog ain't going to hunt. Joe Biden is the one who broke the immigration system beyond all repair. Here's Kamala Harris, the incompetent vice president of the United States, blaming Republicans for failures on immigration.
Everyone knows our immigration system is broken. Right. Okay. The first bill that we dropped, the first bill that we offered right after inauguration was to fix the immigration system. A comprehensive plan to deal with the immigration system. Do you think they've taken it up? No. We want solutions. The solutions are at hand. But frankly, we're in an election year. And the folks who want to return Donald Trump to the White House would prefer to talk about a broken immigration system instead of focusing on the solutions that are at hand and engaging in bipartisan work.
But the solutions that you want are an open border. Again, they keep saying things like we need more processing at the border. But what they really mean is they want to allow more people to use the asylum system to get into the country. Until you change the actual rules with regard to who is adjudicated eligible for asylum, nothing is actually going to change. Are you tired of the lies and the twists of the mainstream media talking points? Yeah, me too. Join me in my newest series, Fact, where I dismantle and bring truth to this tiring mainstream agenda.